She refused to keep her fat mouth shut. It really does seem to me that this is like a 19-year-old's version of feminism. Their star, Rachel Zegler, was so unlikable. It's the old, it truly is go woke, go broke.
Majine, a kingdom built on dreams, a studio synonymous with enchantment, suddenly finding itself ensnared in a real-world nightmare. We're not talking about a dragon's curse or a wicked spell, but something arguably more potent and insidious in the modern age, a public relations catastrophe. Disney's live-action Snow White, once envisioned as a glittering jewel in their crown of remakes, has instead become a lightning rod for controversy, a swirling vortex of on-set discord, clashing visions, and a star whose every word seems to ignite a fresh wave of online fury. This isn't just a movie production. It's a high-stakes drama unfolding in real time, a cautionary tale being written before the cameras even stop rolling. Forget the whimsical promise of happily ever after. We're plunged into the gritty reality of Hollywood pressure cookers, where creative tensions, personal animosities, and the unforgiving glare of social media can transform a fairy tale into a full-blown crisis. Is this Snow White adaptation irrevocably tainted, cursed before it even has a chance to cast its spell on audiences? Or can Disney, through masterful damage control and perhaps a stroke of cinematic magic, pull off a miraculous recovery? Let's descend into the rabbit hole of rumors, dissect the layers of controversy, and explore the precarious fate of a fairy tale teetering on the brink. The tempestuous journey of Snow White began not with a poisoned apple, but with words. The words of Rachel Zegler, the young actress chosen to embody the iconic princess, became the unlikely catalyst for a PR storm of astonishing intensity. In interviews and online pronouncements leading up to and during production, Zegler articulated a vision for Snow White that sharply diverged from the nostalgic image cherished by generations. These weren't subtle nuances or minor tweaks. They were bold declarations that seemed to challenge the very DNA of the 1937 animated masterpiece, and, by extension, the Brothers Grimm fairy tale itself. When she characterized the original as a 19-year-old's version of feminism, it struck a nerve, implying a perceived lack of depth or relevance in the classic portrayal. The admission that she was scared of the original cartoon and had only watched it once, then never picked it up again, felt to many like a profound disconnect, a startling lack of affinity for the source material she was tasked with honoring. The reaction was immediate, visceral, and overwhelmingly negative. The internet, that ever-vigilant watchdog of cultural touchstones, erupted in a chorus of condemnation. Accusations of wokeness, a now ubiquitous term often used to denote perceived ideological agendas in entertainment, were hurled with abandon. Critics decried what they saw as a disrespectful dismissal of a timeless classic, a condescending attitude towards the very audience Disney hoped to captivate. The narrative quickly solidified. This Snow White was not being reimagined, but rather rewritten through a lens of modern sensibilities that threatened to erase the cherished essence of the original. The core concern wasn't simply about artistic interpretation, it was about the fear that a beloved cultural artifact was being sacrificed at the altar of contemporary trends. Online forums became battlegrounds, social media feeds overflowed with outrage, and the hashtag #Snow White trended for all the wrong reasons. The initial spark of Zegler's comments had ignited a conflagration that threatened to consume the entire production. As the online inferno raged, Disney, a corporation acutely aware of its public image, and Rachel Zegler, the actress at the epicenter of the storm, responded with a carefully orchestrated maneuver: the apology. A statement was released, attributed to Zegler, seemingly crafted to extinguish the flames and reassure a skeptical public that, despite her earlier pronouncements, a deep respect for the 1937 animated film did in fact reside within her. The transcript notes, with a hint of detached observation, in light of the backlash, Zegler's apology surfaced seemingly a bid to reassure the public that she does in fact have admiration for the animated original. The phrasing itself, seemingly a bid, underscores the inherent skepticism surrounding the gesture. Was this a genuine mea culpa, a sincere expression of remorse, and a genuine shift in perspective? Or was it, as many cynics suspected, a meticulously calculated exercise in damage control, a PR tactic designed to quell the uproar and salvage a project teetering on the brink of disaster? The court of public opinion remained divided and largely unconvinced. For a significant segment of the audience, the apology rang hollow, too little, too late. It was perceived as a strategic necessity, dictated by studio executives and crisis management teams, rather than a heartfelt expression of personal reflection. The timing, strategically released when the negative. While the public relations battle raged in the digital realm, a parallel struggle was unfolding on the Snow White set, a behind-the-scenes drama that amplified the sense of a production spiraling out of control. The transcript unveils a stark reality. This wasn't a smooth, harmonious filming process, punctuated by minor creative disagreements. It was a production beset by fundamental problems, necessitating an extraordinary and alarming number of reshoots. Difficulties on the set have been mounting for a while, the report states, a euphemistic understatement that barely hints at the extent of the turmoil. 3 rounds of reshoots, an unprecedented undertaking for a film of this magnitude, screamed of a project in deep crisis. These weren't routine pickups or minor adjustments. They were extensive, costly, and indicative of a film grappling with deep-seated structural issues. The studio, in a desperate attempt to right the ship, reportedly scrambled to fix pacing problems, reorganize key plot points, and generally reshape the film's storyline. This wasn't just about polishing the edges, it was about fundamentally re-engineering the narrative architecture of the film, a process fraught with peril and uncertainty. The involvement of Greta Gerwig, a writer celebrated for her independent spirit and unconventional storytelling, adds another layer of intrigue to this production puzzle. Brought in to inject her creative sensibilities into the screenplay, Gerwig, according to reports, allegedly encountered challenge after challenge as she tried to meet the studio's requirements. This suggests a clash of creative visions, a tension between Gerwig's artistic inclinations and the studio's increasingly frantic attempts to impose order and direction on a project seemingly adrift. Each revision, each attempt to salvage the film, paradoxically introduced a fresh set of complications, creating a feedback loop of rewrites and reshoots that only deepened the sense of chaos and uncertainty. The fairy tale, far from unfolding as planned, was becoming a tangled web of competing agendas, creative compromises, and escalating production costs, a testament to the inherent fragility of large-scale filmmaking and the unpredictable nature of creative collaborations under immense pressure. Adding a potent dose of interpersonal drama to the already volatile mix was the reported dynamic between the film's 2 leading actresses, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot. While Zegler navigated the treacherous waters of public opinion, a parallel current of tension was reportedly building on set, centered around the contrasting approaches and personalities of the film's Snow White and Evil Queen. The transcript alludes to a tense dynamic between the 2 principal leads and notes that reports indicate that Zegler's public statements sparked widespread criticism, triggering a separate controversy. However, the conflict extended beyond mere public perception. It permeated the on-set atmosphere, manifesting as artistic disagreements, conflicting visions for their respective characters, and a palpable sense of friction between the 2 stars. The now infamous fortress scene became the epicenter of this on-set earthquake. Described as especially problematic to shoot, this pivotal sequence, intended to showcase a dramatic confrontation between Snow White and the Evil Queen, instead became a battleground for competing creative wills. The transcript details a dispute so heated it was impossible to finish multiple takes without ongoing disruption. Production members, caught in the crossfire, recounted an arduous ordeal of roughly 25 attempts spread across an exhausting 18 hours. The core of the contention, according to insiders, lay in diverging interpretations of character and scene delivery. Gadot, embodying the Evil Queen, reportedly embraced improvisation, injecting a darker, more nuanced dimension into her portrayal, an approach apparently welcomed by the director and writers seeking to modernize the classic villain. However, Zegler, fiercely protective of her vision for Snow White, reportedly grew unsettled, believing that such improvisation diluted the focus on Snow White, potentially undermining the heroine's arc and diminishing her climactic moment. This clash of acting styles, of character interpretations, and of narrative priorities created an on-set impasse, a situation where the creative process devolved into a test of wills, leaving the production team uncertain how to reconcile the competing visions.